You know what the black sheep of the family is? You know that expression? You ever tried to defend the black sheep of the family? You know, you're kind of like, well, he's made a couple of bad decisions, right? Or, it wasn't all his fault. The black sheep of the family usually says, it's none of my fault. I was just a victim of circumstance, right? But if there's a family member that's one way, it seems like the rest of the world kind of wants to put everybody in the same group, don't they? Well, if that's him, the family must be that way. So you come up with stuff like, they're all cut from the same cloth, right? One bad apple spoils the whole group. But that's not really true. That's just what the world says, right? So how does that affect us as a church? One apple or one person? Well, you go to the Assembly of God church, you go to the strangest church in town, the most unique church probably that anybody, they don't know what this is. They really don't. And so the only way they know what the Catholic Church is, what the Baptist, they've been around for millions of years. But the Assembly of God, and especially the Assembly of God in Langdon, this church has only been here 14 years. So you all you are the cloth, you are the barrel of apples, and they get to see you on an individual. And so you are either looked at as a good, kind, generous, loving person who goes to this church. That must mean we all are that way. Or look out, to belong to a cult. You know what they do in there? Nobody knows what they do in there. And so if you say, yeah, I go to that church, and someone says, yeah, but did you see them Saturday night? They were with another woman. They went over there. Did you hear what they said? Did you hear how they talk? All of those things kind of play a part of who we're supposed to be. And so today, Paul is going to explain a characteristic that I've talked about many times. It's about the characteristic every person who calls himself a Christian and attends a Christian church, and that's what this is, a Christian church, how you show love. How do you show the love God gave you? How do you show it back to God? How do you show it to one another? And just as important as how do you show that out in the world, okay? It's all got to be the same. It can't be different for one person than the next. That's really important. So we're going to read Romans 12, verse 9 through 21, but I'm only going to talk about verse 9 today. Paul says, let your love be without hypocrisy. Abhor what is evil, cling to what is good. Be devoted to one another in brotherly love. Give preference to one another in honor, not lagging behind in diligence. Be fervent in spirit, serving the Lord, rejoicing in hope, persevering in tribulation, devoted to prayer, contributing to the needs of the saints, practicing hospitality. Bless those who persecute you, bless and not curse. Bless and curse not. Rejoice with those who rejoice and weep with those who weep. Be of the same mind toward one another. Do not be haughty in mind, but associate with the lowly. Do not be wise in your own estimation. Never pay back evil for evil to anyone. Respect what is right in the sight of all men. If possible, so far as it depends on you, be at peace with all men or women. Never take your own revenge, beloved, but leave room for the wrath of God. For it is written, vengeance is mine. I will repay, says the Lord. But if your enemy is hungry, feed him. And if he is thirsty, give him a drink. For in doing so, you will heap burning coals upon his head. Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. So, So Paul tells us love without hypocrisy, and then the next verses talks about how we need to be throughout our life, every day, okay? Practical. Love without hypocrisy. The word, I think most people understand that the word is you say one thing but you do another, right? You're one way to this person, but you're this way to somebody else. You're two-faced or hypocritical. That word comes from stage, from putting on plays, where somebody would have a number of masks on a little stick, and if dialogue was going on over there, and they were angry at that person, they'd have a little angry face, like, right? While they're talking over here about you. Or if they're saying something and they're afraid because of whatever's going on in the play, then they put on this scared face or a happy face or whatever. You get the picture? Well, that's hypocrite, meaning what's on the outside isn't who he is on the inside. He might have an angry face out here, but he's not angry at anybody, not really. It's just a play. So a hypocrite is fake, it's false. It's like being a liar. You're saying one thing, but you are something else. How we live our lives inside and outside the church has to be absolutely the same. We show love to everyone at all times without any prejudice. Is that easy? Is there somebody on your mind thinking, well, I'll love everyone but them? You don't know them, right? Without prejudice. Do you know why you need to love everyone without any prejudice, without any expectation of them loving you back? Is because Jesus Christ loved you first. He was the first to show and prove the love of God by what he did. And so he took something from you so that you could receive his love. He took from you every kind of sin and darkness that you were born with and grew up with and lived with and chose to do through your life. He took that away and wants love to be replaced, godly love to be replaced. So when that takes place in a person's life, something changes. As a matter of fact, your outward appearance changes. Those wrinkles of grief and despair and worry and bitterness and doubt that you've had so long in your life, all of a sudden there's love and peace and joy and God in this relationship. And man, like you smile for the first time and you're almost like radiant, and people see that. That's love starting in the Christian's life. So last week, we talked a lot about people in the church and the gifts and the talents God has given you for the church and the body of Christ. Each one has a different type. But the one thing every pastor, every missionary, every treasurer, every worship leader, every Sunday school teacher, every person in every seat, everything that, the one thing every person needs is to show love without partiality across the board. Love is something, it's sort of hard to explain godly love. When I was younger, I used to love, there was an old black and white Superman, but I mean, Superman in general. I mean, that guy could fly. I wanted to have the ability to fly someday. And you see how strong he was? He could bend steel. And I mean, that's pretty cool. I wanted superpowers. Well, you grow up, you realize superpowers or whatever, but then you read the Bible and you see, Samson, superpowers, and you see, Moses, he can part the water, and, Jesus can, just heal anybody, and Elijah, I like Elijah. How about a little fire right there? No problem. Fire! Like fire come down from heaven anywhere. That would be awesome. Prophecy, I could just start speaking in prophetic utterance to people. And you know what's going to happen to you, boy? You know what's going to happen to you, girl? Just start giving prophecies and, kind of wow. Like those are power things to me. But Paul tells us the greatest gift, the most powerful thing that is given to each and every one of us it's love. Love is the most powerful weapon you have against everything else in the world. Okay? It is the brightest light you can shine for Jesus. As a matter of fact, Jesus doesn't suggest you need to develop love. He commands us to love. He says, the love that you have for one another is going to go proof to the world that you are his disciples, not just members of this church or this organization, but you're a disciple of Jesus Christ. So his love, his command is not a suggestion. Like, we can love because they're family members. We got to love them, right? No, he was on the cross. He had just gotten beaten up, his beard pulled out, and crown of thorns, and beaten, crucified, mocked while he was up there. Why don't you come down? Then we'll believe, And then his dying breath, he said, Father, forgive them. Man, God proved his love through that action. That's how much he cares and loves us unconditionally. Whether you receive his love or not, the love is there for the taking, okay? That's what we're supposed to be representing every day to every person. So, unfortunately, it's hard to, the reason why it's hard to define that kind of love is because we weren't born with it. We don't understand it. We're kind of born with hypocritical, where they love at certain times, but if they don't get what they want, then it's like they don't love you anymore. Ask your child, right? Give your child everything they want. Would you like candy for supper? Oh, would you like donuts for breakfast? Nice, right? Give them everything they want. Do you want that toy when you go to the grocery store? Well, take two, sweetie, right? You give them everything they want whenever they want it. And won't they always love you? But one time say, no, you're not going to have candy for supper, and what's going to happen? Right? So at that time, just like if I disobey God, God doesn't stop loving me, God would discipline me. So if that child would react to that, that's not, unconditional love means do whatever you want. So now that child grows up into a teenager, right? And then you think they're old enough to do stuff, and so you get them clothes to start school, and they need a new, mitt for baseball or cleats, or, they might want to take driver's ed, or maybe they're even old enough to get a car, and you're going to help them pay off this car, and you're doing all these things and then you go, hey, by the way, son, would you take out the garbage? The garbage? Didn't I take it out last year? And you're just thinking, it's sort of, that isn't a love moment. That's sort of so you still love them, right? But I probably am going to discipline that child for having that kind of reaction. Hopefully they would never have that reaction if they discipline them at an earlier age. But then they become adults and they get married. Anybody ever have a squabble with your significant other? It's not that they don't love each other. And it's nice that, you are together, but you can do a lot of things for each other. But say I want to go to Alaska on a 2-week vacation. And Linda thinks, no, let's go to Cancun for a 2 weeks vacation. I wonder where we should go on vacation. Kansas, somewhere in the middle. No, where do we go on? So how do you, anyway, it seems if something happens where there's a disagreement, do they come back, husband or wife, doesn't make any difference, and go, oh, you're right, honey, you know what, we'll do this year and this next year, or you always get your way. It's a little bit hypocritical. We don't always act the same way, and things, it's hard to teach kids godly love, just because of how we grow up. Anybody have a boss that they really love, or a boss that they really hate? You got an employer, he's a nice guy, nice woman, whatever. They bring you lunch every couple of days, they're like once a week, they're like, you know what, we're gonna have lunch, it's on me, right? Oh, he's the greatest boss in the world. And then he says, oh, by the way, something bad happened and something with the order, whatever took place. You guys have to come in Saturday. We gotta get this taken care of, you gotta come in Saturday. Oh, but I got this to go. Oh, I got my. No, you have to come in Saturday. Do you love your boss? Oh, he doesn't think of the family. So you tend to get angry at that. No, that's not maybe all the greatest examples about love without hypocrisy, but it has meaning of how we grow up and on our daily basis is how do I love all the time everyone? I don't. I don't. I wish I did, but I don't. It's a command that Jesus gave us. It is a command to love. It is a characteristic of God because God is love. I am a child of God. I should be able to love like God, like Christ. He wouldn't have given us a command if we couldn't do it, right? The more I die to myself, the more room inside this ugly chamber is love. I think God puts His Spirit is love, it is peace, it is joy. All of that comes in that we can exemplify who Christ is. The world needs to see Christ because right now all they're seeing is the world. All they're seeing is hypocrisy, people saying one thing and doing another, and they're going, well, okay, that's just the way it is. We have to offer something different, which is the truth, and that's love. It is not natural. It is supernatural. It's a supernatural power you can have. Okay, it's not Superman or Wonder Woman, but love is something you're thinking, well, that's just love, right? I know I told the Austin Church, I saw, Paul McCartney doing a concert in New York, and he's like, I love you, New York City! And they're all clapping for him and stuff, and I just thought, Paul McCartney loves 8.5 million people. What an awesome man. What a lot of love that guy has, right? And people kind of tend to use love in that respect. Oh, I love you, I guarantee you it is not the God-like love. And we'll look at that in just a little bit of a minute. To love yourself is paramount. To love others unconditionally is no less of a challenge to me and to you, I don't believe, than it was to Jesus or to Paul or to Timothy or to Barnabas. Those men who died for the faith, the people who are still dying for their faith, the people who still die who love Jesus with all their heart and love the people who are martyring them. They still love. You don't love the sin, right? You don't love the sin, and we're going to get at that. Because Paul explains to us a starting point for us. In order for me to love, I might have to do or undo something in my life. And so the next sentence in verse 9 is Paul telling us that we must abhor evil, and then we must cling to what is good. So to abhor means to be utterly repulsed by something. So for example, if I wanted to explain my food poisoning episode with you, you would have been utterly repulsed. Especially the pictures I took. No, I didn't take no pictures. That's gross, for crying out loud. But that's how much you should abhor evil. So, tell me, what is evil? Is sin the same in this church as every church is the same for you as it is to you and everyone else? See, God defines what evil is and what sin is. Not the church, not an individual, not a doctrine, okay? God. And so I have to be repulsed at what is evil. I have to be repulsed at lust, greed, sexual immorality, coveting, foul language, corrupt speech, prejudices. I have to abhor those things. So murder, right? But there's abortion. So some churches consider one thing a sin, and some people think it's a woman's right. Correct? Are they in sin or not in sin? Homosexuality. Some churches say it's a sin, and they're sinners. Others think that's a lifestyle. You guys are the ones who are prejudiced. So who's right? Okay? That's why the Bible's so important for us to study. You have to abhor what is evil. Now, I might not like... the man who murdered my son, okay? I don't have to like that. I don't, I detest, I abhor the murder. I have to love that guy. Now that doesn't mean I was reading a commentary and it said, there's nowhere in the Bible where it says you have to like anybody. But love is a challenge, even to the most corrupt. I have to love people who have abortions. I have to love people who are thieves or who lie, people who gossip. Not what they're doing, but them. Hopefully there'll be an insight at some point for them to go, I want to quit. At some point, they're like the prodigal son who realizes the darkness that they're in, and they want to change their life. And you're the only connection that they have with anyone who's ever shown them God's love. They've seen the world's love plenty. Okay, it's out there. But they have, and so we need to be repulsed by what is evil and cling then. So just the opposite, we need to cling to what is good. That word cling is only used once in the New Testament, and that's here. It's used as a kind of a parent. It's used as a little different way when in Genesis, that the man shall leave his parents and cleave to his wife, and the two shall be one. Cleave and cling are pretty much the same. Old Testament, New Testament. That's the same. That's what Paul is saying we must do. As a man and a woman come together and become one in the eyes of God, but they are one of purpose, right? One of thought, one of purpose, one of goal, that they both are together, they both want a home together, they both want a family together, they're going to work at things together, they're going to, raise their children together and grandchildren, and, they're doing all these things together as one. Not separate entities anymore. You're a family unit, different than your mother and father. You're your own family unit, okay? That's what Paul is saying we have to do with good. So just as you need to define what evil is and sin is, man, you must take good and grasp it. Grab hold of it. It becomes you. You know what I mean? It becomes one with you. And so that means you grasp hold and take hold of everything that is holy, everything that is just as we talked about in Philippians. It is who we are, separated from by God, separated to God, sanctified. I want to give you a Bible verse from John's epistle, 1 John chapter 3. I want to give you a practical example of what how John defines godly love. He says, we know love, and so this is for us. We know love by this, that He, Jesus Christ, laid down His life for us, so we ought to lay down our lives for each other. Now I know what Jesus did for me, right, on the cross, right? Now, obviously we don't do that. We don't go on the cross for anybody. So how do I lay down my life for everyone? And how do you lay down your life for people? That is a demonstration of love. What did Jesus do? Well, I believe He put us first, did He not? And not Himself. That's a start, laying down your life. I can't focus on my needs. I want to see, is there something I can do out here? Out there, equally, without prejudice. I don't look and go, well, I'm not going to go to them. It doesn't make any difference, okay? And then John continues. He says, but whoever has the world's goods and sees their brother in need and closes their heart against him, does the love of God abide in him? Well, he doesn't answer the question because the question's obvious. If you don't do something that is available for you to do, and God's opened up this door for you to help somebody, whether they help you back, whether you get anything in return, that isn't the issue. It's just that you are a person of love. You're a Christian. You're a son or daughter of God, and that's what God would do, right? He reached out to the woman at the well because that's just what he does. Yeah, married 5 times and living with a man. Yep. You know what? You want the drink of water from living water? You know, that's what we do. John says, little children, let us not love with word or by tongue, but let us love in our works and in truth. Amen.